sir.
3 chocolate meeting and you only got 2. You're short.
Well, I know. I need to be short. I'm overdone it today.
Good evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please? Rod?
Let's pray. Our Father, thank you that we live in a country where we're free to worship, free to speak, and free to go about doing the city's business. I pray to bless our city leaders, keep them safe and healthy, and give them wisdom as they make the decisions this evening. I pray, Jesus, you'll protect our fire and police departments as they protect the citizens of Vienna. I pray you'll touch those in attendance here this evening. I pray you'll continue to direct our paths and give us wisdom and discernment to follow the path you laid before us. Thank you again for this day. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance this evening, I'd like to ask you all, if you would, to keep Captain Rick Burdine in your prayers. He retired this week, and so it's a whole new adventure for him. And so for him and his family, best of luck. Mr. Leach, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for September the 28th, 2023. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. We have no one that signed up this evening for the public forum, so we will go right into the minutes. The report of the minutes. The minutes from the regular council meeting on September the 14th, 2023 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. We have no unfinished business this evening, so we move to new business. First item on our agenda this evening is a presentation by the Public Works Director, Mr. Craig Metz.
Can y'all hear me? As I come here tonight to talk to you all about what the utility board has, and Public Works actually has plans for the next 5 years. I know in the past we've talked about the 5-year plan, and I put some paperwork on y'all's desk if you want to just view it. But I'll kind of go through a slideshow and we'll talk about some things. If you got any questions, ask. Or if you want to wait to the end and ask, that's fine too. So I'll try to answer the best I can. Okay, as y'all know, we've been working on a 5-year plan for 24 years. It seems like it always gets moved up. We had done some project water tank rehabs, well rehabs, but this is what we have going on for the next 5 years. You all can see that in your charts. So, and what we'll do, we'll kind of go over each line item, what we do in the streets, streets, water, sewer, and stormwater. So our big projects. Now we have everyday maintenance, of course, but these are our big money projects, I call them. And what you all need to look at here is what you're going to look at in reference to what it needs to be spent for the next 5 years to do these projects. That's the big thing. What we need to go and pursue the grants, rate increases, whatever we need to do. Okay. So, all right. Well, we'll hit this right off the bat. So kind of go over what the expense is going to be, and then we'll go into each project. As you can see, for next 5 years or next phases and sewer projects, it's going to cost the city about $13 million. Water projects going to cost approximately $6.6 million. Storm drainage projects needs to be done throughout the city is $6.67 million. The dredging project, which is what we refer to Pond Run project, that's dredging from High River up to 28th Street and the dry dams at Greenmont. That's at $1.37 million. And the street and bridge projects, that is, most of the bridges, the state has taken them over, so they're going to foot the bill on the bridge replacement project. So it could save us almost $4 million, so, which is good.
Is that included in that number, the
Yes.
total project, the
Yeah, the
total
4 million is
cost?
actually, when I say 4.1 million, that also includes like $800,000 a year for streets and that kind of projects.
Okay, so when
Majority of that's going to be
So when the state gives us
bridges,
our
which
money,
is what, 3, 4 of them, 5 of them. So you're looking, $800,000 a piece. So, okay, so that state's going to pay that.
okay.
All right. So total project cost is $31.7 million. So that makes the pool look cheap, doesn't it? So, again, this is the project we're talk about, the wastewater. Just kind of go where expenses come from in each department. Some people will think that, hey, we'll just take the general fund money and throw it at water and sewer, and we cannot do that. We cannot take water and sewer money and throw it in general fund. It's enterprises, and we have to keep them separate. So wastewater is paid by sewer fund, drinking water is paid by water fund, stormwater is paid by general fund, stream dredging, pond run is paid by general fund, streets, general fund, and bridges also general fund, but the state's going to take care of that. So, but we still have to do some maintenance on bridges, okay? So, paving, striping, that kind of thing, guardrail replacements, so. Current projects we have going on is the 12th Street lift station, which is, this lift station is what the last stop for sewage that comes out of the city, goes in this lift station, then it pumps to Parkersburg to their treatment facility. This was put back in 1980s. We had our own sewer plant at that time, and the DEP come in and said, no, we kind of want you to do with your sewer plant. We want you to join in Parkersburg so we don't have the issues with outfalls and just make one big plant. So at that time we signed an agreement with Parkersburg to accept our sewage at a certain rate, and we took that plant and installed 3 pumps and a force main to Parkersburg. Okay, that's kind of what you see there now. But we replaced the pumps about 10 years ago. We had some issues, so we bid it back out to replace the 3 pumps again, more higher horsepower, better flow characteristics. So that's right now, that is under construction. They are replacing the pumps, and that is a price tag of $335,000. Then we got the SCADA system. SCADA system is going to be in for water and sewer. It's a combined project. The SCADA system is your telemetry system. It allows you to turn pumps on and off. It calculates the flow in the tanks or what the elevation is, so it'll turn the pumps automatically on and off, and also it helps with the injection of chlorine and chemicals to treat the water. A certain flow rate, 1.1 million gallons of water we produce a year, or produce a day. SCADA system kind of calculates how much chlorine it's going to take to treat that water, and then of course we always test it. So, and then rehab existing lift stations. You can see what we have. There's some water and sewer. There's quite a few of them. I'll show you a map of them. We kind of do that in house, and when I say in house, sewer lift stations, pumps will be good for maybe 2-3 years. So we're constantly replacing them. We go out with our crews, we pull the pumps, pull the floats, replace the panels, install new stuff, and turn it back on, make sure it's working. Every day we go out and check lift stations. That's Christmas time, don't matter if holidays or not, we go out, and if there's a problem with lift stations, we take care of it. We can't have an overflow in any lift station, especially stormwater or sewer. Okay.
So, quick question on that is, for these current projects, then is all of this money sort of already taken care of for the current projects? And
Yes,
that's
it's
already
in
been
current
paid for?
budget.
Okay.
Yes, we allow a certain amount to buy the new pumps. And when I come here 24 years ago, there's 19 lift stations, or how many there is. It's all different types. Some of just all different types of pumps, different control panels. We've got it down to where we have 2 pumps, so we have to buy a 2 horsepower and a 7 horsepower pump. And control panels all the same, so I try to keep control panels on the shelf along with replacement pumps. So if something goes bad, I take that one pump off, go and replace it, then order a new pump. So it was all different types of brands, different type of brackets, different type of outlets. I mean, it was a mess. So at least they're all the same now. The only difference there is in stormwater. There's some stormwater's got 60 horsepower motors in. We can't keep them on the shelf because of cost. This drawing kind of shows you outline or where everything is, reference to our SCADA system we're building out. It shows you well fields, all the lift stations, sewer plants, our main office, where the main hub will be for our SCADA system. So all the tank locations. So. Yeah, Tom.
Is it Windermere and it's in Parkersburg?
Pardon?
Windermere.
Windermere is in Parkersburg, but it's serviced off our water and sewer system. Okay. We tried to get Clarence Cox at the time from Parkersburg Utility Board to take a system over, but he's too smart to do that, so we got stuck with it. So, okay, we're going to talk about some water projects. We talked, we kind of issued where the cost is and projects we got coming up. There's a wastewater system we're going to talk about. We have some I&I problems, which is infiltration of stormwater, and we got some high flow rates on 17th Street, and that's one of our main areas that overflows on heavy rains, back up in people's houses. So if that's our main project to start with, and the force main to Parkersburg replacement, but you can see the 12th Street, the slide to the right, the yellow line, it starts at 12th Street pump station, runs with the current sewer line up 12th Street, underground central, over Pond Run, up over to, I think it's 11th Avenue there. So, and then it'll turn left, go from 11th Avenue up to 17th Street. Okay. We currently have, what size is that line? 8-inch, we're gonna go to 16 or 12?
Which one?
12th Street main extension for sewer.
I think it's 1 to 18.
18, okay. So that'll get all the flows out of them neighborhoods and get them to our treatment plant so we can get them pumped to Parkersburg. That is part of the pump rehab project we're currently working on. Bigger pumps, more flow. If you look at that Grand Central section right there, that sewer line is 18 foot deep. So we're not going to do that in the house. So that's something. We had to get a contractor in, he'll have to bore across that and set in the sewer line. Okay. And part of that same project, phase 1 project, you look at this yellow line here. This is the force main to Parkersburg. Okay. And that line has been in place for over 40 years. We've had to replace or do repairs on that line in the past. Actually, right in this location right there, if you can see my little mouse. Like a lot of sewer right there. That line busted, ruptured by the railroad tracks, took out some of the railroad tracks, there was gravel around it. It was a pretty nice little job. Flood these fields with raw sewage. It was a mess. But that line needs to be replaced. So that's in the phase 1 project along with the upgrades up 12th Street and over to 17th. Okay.
So Craig, I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the city going to be awarded $1 million for this trunk line from the RRA that came through Manchin's office?
Randy could answer that, yes.
Yes. It's been approved through appropriations, and so as soon as they write the check, we're in.
Okay, so that's $1 million for that trunk line towards like a $3 million project?
Yeah.
Okay.
That included the extension up 12th Street and stuff too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. This is also wastewater phase 2 projects we got coming, third and fourth year. You see the lines, these are the sewer lines that needs to be upgraded, rehabbed. They got some I&I issues. We can either replace the lines or look about sleeving the lines. So, just, you see all your yellow bits, that's the sewer line, that's part of phase 2. The second phase, phase 2, is the replacement of sewer line off of Woodland Drive down through the Wood area and down 27th Street. That line currently is laying more or less on top of the ground, so it has a lot of I&I and a lot of infiltration on that and a lot of high flows, a lot of backage, blocks, roots, pipe gets broke. We're up there repairing it all the time. So that's a phase 2 project. So here's kind of the costs and what phases we talk about. So it's phase 1, design phase, of course, construction phase, $6.3 million. Phase 2 project is $4.7 million. Any questions in reference to sewer or wastewater? Yeah, let's go with the water system. Go with current projects. Right now, we just finished up the 45th place water line replacement at $318,000 to do that, complete that project. That did replace the 2-inch line in 45th place with a 6-inch line and replaced the 2.5-inch line that ran down 4th Avenue with the 8-inch line. So also tied in 3 different locations, back on Grand Central, back on 3rd Avenue, and back on 41st Street. It was a dead-end system. Now it's a loop system, which improves the quality of the water. The hydrant and valve replacement per year is what we do in-house. That's when a hydrant gets broke or hydrant needs repaired or valves. Like, we do that at $60,000 a year. That's a rough guess. Sometimes we spend more, sometimes we spend less. All depends on what we replace, but it seems like lately, example, in 45th project, we had to shut the water down so they make a tap. When we shut the water line down at Grand Central on 41st Street, the valve broke. So that's why you see water run down the road. We had it scheduled last week to replace, but COVID hit us pretty hard. So we lost a lot of employees off or sick during COVID. So we're going to try to do that next week if everybody's back and well. But that's part of that $60,000 on that project and replacing that valve. That kind of, we got that $60,000. We'll spend $5,000 that night, put a new 6-inch valve in with dressers and piping extensions. Okay. Then we have the inspections of water tanks. It's been a while since we built them tanks. They need to inspect them. The price tag of that is $50,000 a year for 5 years. What that does is guys come in with your drain tanks or they dive in. We'll start flushing tanks out. Any damages tanks, and we'll start. Needs repainting. They'll advise us on what needs to be done in them tanks. Then that'll be part of a phase. We'll upgrade or repair the tanks as needed. Fortunately, the last project we did was the replacement tanks. We put the glass line tanks in, a little bit more durable, less maintenance. So hopefully we'll have a big price tag for repairing tanks. Okay.
Are you going to talk about Lonsdale?
Did you say something, Tom?
Is that 50,000 a year?
No, it's 50,000 every 5 years. Just
Over 5?
Every 5 years, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Then we got water system, phase 1 projects. These are small diameter main replacements. If you look back there in the last thing, these lead service line inventory, I'm sure you've all heard the news and everything dealing with this country. They're trying to eliminate any lead, copper lines, or galvanized lines, okay? We will be required to replace if we have any of those. the water system improvement phase one, if you look at the little red lines, that's everything we have in small diameter lines. When I'm saying like inch and quarter galvanized lines, that's what we're gonna need to replace. Either 2, 4, 6 inch lines. When we do that in projects, of course, we'll always try to loop them in, make, won't have dead end lines if we can, so. But those will need to be replaced. Part of the lead and the EPA's lead and copper rule.
Is there any, is 7th Street on that?
No, that one little section of 7th Street in the back, but most of that, it's not small diameter pipe problem, and there's big diameter pipe problem. So it's your ductile and your transite pipe. That does not include replacing them. I'm just replacing lines that we're going to be required to replace. Okay. If you want, I can do a phase 3 and 4 and start replacing the bigger diameter lines that needs to be replaced. But we had a bad leak on 16th Street again. I think that's 18 in the last 7 years. So, all right. Any questions on that? Okay. The phase 2 projects is your well fields, 9 and 10. They need to be rehabbed. They've been in service for several years. Well fields, you should pull the pumps and clean them at least every 7 years. We seem to stretch it every 10 to 15 years, so which is good. But the problem is when you stretch it, you're also getting more damage to the product. So if you did a well rehab every 7 years, you might be able to save a pump or turbine pump impellers. If you wait that long, you're not going to save anything. You're just going to pull it out and throw it away and order all new stuff. So 9 and 10 needs to be rehabbed. The 20th Street booster station, that feeds the tank up to Woodland up by the OBU College. That building actually come from a building that John Mansfield gave us many years ago. They just thrown away. We took it and put it around the booster station at the time. It's still in bad shape. It needs to be replaced. The door doesn't close. There's big holes in the walls. It's a metal structure with insulation on the inside, and there's no structural steel to it. It just panels pit on concrete, bad shape. So that's part of the phase 2 projects, and then some line upgrades to tie systems in, alleviate the dead end lines. That's what you see mostly to the right, like D, B, C, and A. So that's tie-in lines. Better flow, better fire protection. That's what them are for. So, cost. Water system improvement, phase 1, you're looking at a $3.21 million price tag. In phase 2, you're looking at a $2 million price tag. Okay. And we get the stormwater. The dredging of pond run. This is our flow control channel, okay? This channel was put back in the 80s, and the purpose was to help with the flooding throughout the city, which I think has worked great. There's also a dry dam structure out at the McDonough Corporation out back. That's our largest dry dam we have. That's helped a lot because when it rains, it kind of fills that lake up, and it kind of dissipates at a certain speed. So it really slows the water down from really gushing through the water, down through the city of Vienna. But this, if you go look at it, especially in this section through here, this has got 3 to 4 foot of silt in it. Up through here's got 1 to 2 foot of silt. So we asked personnel to come in, look about. They've done the survey, they've done the calculation on the dirt removal, what it's going to take, what the cost is going to be, but it needs to be done. Also, when they did that, we also, like I said, the dry dam structures at Greenmont, which controls the flooding down this creek channel and down through where the golf course and all that. Those dry dams actually hold that water back. So those have almost 5 foot of silt in them. Those, we tried to in-house dredge this larger dry dam at Glenbrook. It didn't work out for us. I didn't have the right equipment. It's all swamp. So we have to wait for the contractors to get that. But you can see some of the silt there. Actually, this is, you see this area here, that's all silt. This is a stream going through. That stream should run right down the center. That silt's blocking it, diverting it, and they're causing some erosion issues inside that bank. So, yeah. The price tag on that is $1.13 million. Hopefully we'll get a grant for that. Not any confirmation yet. Hopefully they'll pay for it. I've met the Soil Conservation Department out there, met the DEP, EPA. We all in agreement that definitely needs dredged. So that keeps filling up full of silt. That's going to increase your chances of flooding in the city of Vienna. Okay. Any comments? Any questions? Okay, we'll go to 28th Street and there's a storm drain project. There's 3 phases of this project. One is, you see in the blue line, that's your main diameter pipe, large diameter pipe. We have a retention system built and designing that, plus a large diameter pipe, which reduces when it comes down into pond run, so it'll hold the water back, lets it out at a certain rate. So we can't afford to do this project all at once. We'd love to. So we broke it up in 3 different phases. When we did the questionnaire, a reference to asking everybody how they felt about flooding in Vienna, where the priorities was, this was one of the priorities. Okay, this has got a lot of comments up in this area. Say, hey, this is where it needs probably to be done. That's what we concentrate on. But phase 1 is the light blue line. Phase 2 is your pick line. It goes up through the 19th Avenue off 28th Street, and then your phase 3, which is some laterals will come back and tie back into 28th Street area, catches this surface water off 28th Street. But you have to do this section first, because that's where you can't do this up here and then come back and put all this water down there, because it's not going to work. You don't have the pipe diameter to do it. Do this section first, increase the pipe diameter, and then it starts branching out after that. Okay. Now,
So that's tying in there at that top left corner, that's in that field across from the community building, is that right?
yes, ma'am. Yeah. Goes right down 15th Avenue right by Jackson School. So. Okay, so grant money on that. There is some grant money out there for what we're trying to do here with water quality. We're going to be applying for them grants. Hopefully they'll pay for this project, because this is not just collect the water and dump it in pond run. This is collect the water, hold it back, reduce the flow, get some where it silts out by itself or perks out by itself in the existing ground, and then whatever's left dumps in the pond run. So there is grant money out there for that. We are going to apply for it. We are applying for it. So hopefully they'll pay for a lot of this project, but it all depends if they approve it or not. And the cost of that, you can see construction phase 1 is $1.61 million. Phase 2 is $2.47 million. And phase 3 is $2 million. But you can kind of see where we're at and what years we're doing, 25, 26, and 27. So. Of course, the bridge replacement, miscellaneous projects is being completed by West Virginia Department of Highways. And a paving contract, we try to pit at this year is $800,000. That's unfortunately, with the cost of everything going up, that's not going to be enough for next year. It's not enough for this year. Concrete, $200 a cubic yard. When I come here, it's $45 a cubic yard. Asphalt sitting at $120. I was paid $26 a ton when I come here 26 years ago. So it's really jumped this past year. And I don't see, even the stone quarries, the price of stone is getting very expensive. So we try to cycle as much stone as we can, and we do millings. We always keep the millings. If there's a contractor like Brown's Asphalt, they do work in the city for things, we try to get with them, maybe have him, if he wants a place to dump his millings, we do it. Any paving jobs from state, we try to convince them to dump millings up here. But unfortunately, the state's starting to see the value in millings too, so we're not getting as many as we used to. Storm pump station rehab. Got some areas like 41st Street, right there by the school. That's a stormwater pump station. That keeps that area from flooding. I'm hoping when the school does the new school, rebuilds it, they'll put a retention system in that area. Well, I almost guarantee they will because I'm going to make them. And hopefully it'll keep that flow down. We might be able to get by that lift station. So good thing about having things in ordinance and building permits, we can have them do it. So any questions?
Now what? So we have this list of things that need to be done, and I would agree that they need to be done. So how much of this, is all of this outside of your regular budget?
Yes, except for the standard maintenance, like $50,000 for this pump stations upgrade, that kind of stuff. Everything else is outside my budget.
Okay. And so some of these items, where's the page? Here it is. Are general fund type things, which is what we would need to handle on our end, correct, when budget season comes, if we want to fund those specifically for those reasons. Correct. And so then there's a lot on the wastewater and drinking water end. That
is money provided by some rate increases or grant money. We all think we're all read in the paper today. It's like $75 billion the government's starting to pass out on grants and loans. We need to be in line for that. That's what we're working on. That's what we work with Birch and Apple with, try to get our projects completed where it's called shovel ready. So though we do have projects is that. So we love grants. It's free money. But if we don't get the grants, then we have to raise rates to cover these projects. And, I've said for years, I know no one likes rates. And I know them will be, mad tomorrow, a lot of people. But, these rates need to be increased every year to cover the expenses we have. Nothing gets cheaper in life, especially in water and sewer. So
do we need to request, or is that something on our end that we need to ask for the evaluation? I'm sorry, I can't remember the public service.
No, actually,
or is that
the
something that you would
evaluation is
need
done
to do?
in-house. We hire an accountant, and he does the evaluation of what our current rate structure is and what it will include. And then we give him a list of projects, which we have for the next 5 years, and he can build that rate structure and he can build to do them, complete them projects. Now, we could raise the rates to complete every project here, and if we get grants, we can, this is 5 years. Next year, it's going to be another 5 years. Next year, it just keeps going every 5 years. So projects never get done in water and sewer. They don't get better by themselves, okay? So if we do get grants where it does come, we can either apply it to our bills or add to the future projects.
That was going to be my question, was how designated they are. Are we having to play the waiting game of not starting this project because we might get the grant for it? Is that grant money good for something else? Wanting to be as efficient as possible with the projects and knowing, like you said, the funding, we're always going to have a project to do.
Okay, let's talk about water and sewer and forget about everything else, because that comes out. We have to pay for that, reference to streets and general fund. But you're looking at water and sewer projects, you're looking at total of, say $20 million. Okay, now you have phase 1 and phase 2 and several of these projects. You can say, look, I'm going to raise rates to cover the projects phase 1 and phase 2 in sewer. And if we get grant money, we can pay for them projects, but still the rate structure that when you raise rates for water and sewer, you can take that money and apply it to a future project that is there, and it'll always be there, okay?
So how long is the process, if, because we haven't pulled the trigger on doing a rate increase, how long is that process? And who decides? Are we deciding? Are you deciding? Does the Vienna Utility Board decide?
Utility board will decide, then bring it to you for approval. Of course, you always have your comments. You can always come to utility board and say yeah, nay, or whatever, but utility board approves the rate structure, then they bring it to council for approval.
Okay, because, and then, how long does all of that take? I mean, are we talking about like, well, it's just a long process, it'll be another year before that takes effect, or is it like, it could be a 6-month thing? How long
You
does?
can call the accountant in a day if he really does it, and we have a list of projects. I don't see any issue, not being done in 6 months, but it has to do with the state audit too, okay? When the state audits our accounts, then he has to take them numbers, our accounting, and apply that, say, yeah, you're short here, you're heavy here, the money, move the things around, but probably 6 months. Okay, if you agree to every one of these projects, okay?
Is there such a thing as doing a bond or something like that, where we could cover all of that and at the same time start an small incremental increase each year kind of thing on top of that?
Your rate increase, you always have a bond, okay? Nobody has this kind of money in their account. So what you do is, Rainey and we've been through it, we went through the bonds. We just paid one off in the water department. So you go get a bond, it's a loan. It's usually low interest rate, 3%, whatever it is now. That's where your rate increase covers that bond. It doesn't cover these projects. You get the bond, you get the loan, then you get to raise rates to cover the loan expenses.
Got it. Okay. And so then how do other municipalities, because I know there's some that have it already built in, where they increase their rate a little bit each year, is that right?
Yeah,
or every couple years?
That goes with your 5-year plan or 10-year plan, whatever you have. You know what your expenses is going to be, and you know what's going to get bonded. An example like Parkersburg, they usually do it 2 or 3 years at a time. They know what they're going to do. They know what that loan, when to get to this project, they're going to have a bond issue for this one. They got to pay that back. They got projected costs of that. That's what we pay the engineers dollars for. So
is it kind of like stacking bonds? Like you get a bond and you have this rate increase, and then you evaluate it again 3 to 5 years later, you do another bond, which means another rate increase. Is that like you're increasing it again? Is that how
no,
it
you
works?
can do bonds every year.
Okay.
And you're just borrowing money. That's what you're doing. So, example, if you buy a car, you just buy a new car every year, and you know what you got to pay for it. And you know what you're going to have to bring home to cover that payment.
So we're essentially saying, the difference would be if we said, okay, there's $20 million worth of stuff that needs to be done. Are we saying, let's go get a $20 million bond, which means a huge rate increase? Or are we saying, let's do a bond enough for phase 1, which would give us this much increase? And then the next year we would do, is that how that would work?
You could, yeah. You could work that way.
I didn't know if we were looking.
I know we're looking at $20 million. This seems like a lot of money, but that's really kind of inexpensive compared to what a lot is. I mean, you redo a sewer plant, you're $100 million bond. Okay, so the rate structure on what it costs to pay back $20 million, I'm not sure. Yeah, you could do it. Like say, I'm gonna get this bond this year for $2 million to pay for the water system. Next year, I'm gonna get a bond for $3 million to do the sewer department. Next year, I'm gonna get another $2 million for the water department. You can combine them bonds, okay? You can say, okay, I want to borrow money to pay this first bond off, add the second one, and go through. But that has to do with, you just keep stacking them, and your rate structures, when you look at rate structures, you know what, it's what these 5-year plans are for. The accountant's going to look at it and say, okay, this is the projected cost. This is what you're going to need the money to cover them bonds when you borrow the money. This is what your rate's going to have to be this year. This is what your rate's going to have to be the following year to cover that bond. And this is what your rate's going to have to be the third year to cover the bond you're going to get in the sewer department.
Okay, great.
Okay? That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like that conversation to start happening. to
That's
start moving forward on that, yeah.
So I want to compliment you on this your presentation and this documentation, because I think it's very, very helpful. I mean, I'm on the utility board, so I'm very familiar with this, but the way you have it laid out, I think it's easy for people to understand, and you did a really nice job on it.
Thanks.
When was our last rate increase?
7 years ago? Is that right, Randy?
When we did the water tanks.
Yeah, so 7 years ago.
2016 or so. And there's a lot of things that have changed since 2016.
Price has gone up about everything, so, yeah. We're still the lowest in the state.
13 years.
What?
When we did that one, that was the first rate increase in 13 years.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's, like I said, we still have the lowest rates in the water, of any municipality in the state of West Virginia. So, which is great, but it's not great. So, if, you don't have the money, you don't fix things. And that's what we're doing. So we're waiting for them to break and then try to fix them. We need to be more proactive and fix things before they break. Yeah, Tom?
Shouldn't we index the water rates to, I don't know, consumer price index or some index? And that would sort of solve the problem of having an adequate amount, at least go towards solving the problem of not having enough money.
You could, but we're all governed by Public Service Commission. Inflation rates, indexes, they base more on what your expenses actually are, like your bond, replacement of your repayment of your bond, replacement of vehicles, replacement of the payroll, that kind of stuff. So, I understand what you're asking, but if we was all equal throughout the state, it'd be great, every company, but, everybody's different. Our rate structure is way below that inflation rate, so we need to get up there. We'll never get up to where it should be. You got, most average bill around here is $40. In Parkersburg, that same amount, it's going to cost you $120. Okay. And don't be confused when we talk about rates, because everybody says, well, my rate's all this because I got police fees and stormwater. That really don't count. You recycling fees, police fees, that doesn't really count in a water and sewer bill, okay? I know you got to pay it, but you got to pay that everywhere. You guys look what you pay in water and sewer, and it's going to be about $40 a month. So.
Yeah, I think that, with my recollection, even after we did that rate increase, we were the 8th least expensive water and sewer in the state. Yeah. And, so I got a question, Craig. We're talking about the opportunities for these grants. What resources do you have, and are you guys applying to pursue these grants? I mean, who's doing it? Who's applying for the grants?
Man right there.
Okay. And so, I think that's also, just kind of a part of this conversation. Mm-hmm. With the amount of money you're talking about, $20 million over 5 years, is there, and the opportunity to offset, just like what we saw with the bridges, right? What, should we be looking at, getting you some help? I don't, because I'm certain, and in fact, I've been doing some research on grants recently, that there's opportunities to get, just like we do with Burgess and Nyepel and outside contractors, when you say this is beyond our capability. Mm-hmm. Would you recommend, that we maybe even look at, should we be talking to some folks who are really dialed into pursuing these types of grants, given the opportunity and the amount of money that's out there currently that's not going to be there forever?
I've said that for a long time. So we need to pursue grants. We need to pursue that free money. It's not free, but it's free to us. Right. But we have to have somebody to be there, knock on them doors, say, hey, what do you have? This is the project I got. What can I do? Talking to the congressman, talking to the senators, and say, hey, we need money. What do you have?
Yeah, so that's a follow-up what Melissa said, and Kim as well. I think that we need to get busy with this. Well, if that's the big opportunity, and we're talking about millions of dollars in play,
yes,
then perhaps that should be our first focus, is let's get some resources in play to try to offset. We have this opportunity on and I agree with Kim. I think the presentation is great and easy to understand. So my suggestion would be get us some options, to get you some help to go after some of these monies to fund these projects, so we're not passing it on in the form of, rate hikes for our citizens. We've been pretty proud about how we've been able to manage costs for people in Vienna, and we want new people to come to Vienna, and so that's going to be a part of the consideration. So, Mayor, what do you need?
Well, the interesting thing about that is, Jim, you're absolutely right. There is so much money out there right now that all you have to do is get in the funding stream, because they're granting money for almost every kind of project there is. And we've been very fortunate that we did get the 5 bridges, and we got 2 of our earmarks picked up by Senator Manchin's office. But I mean, the little town up in Ritchie County, they've gotten 7 or 8 grants. And it's just simply, we use the best bond counsel there is in the state of West Virginia, and the accountant that we use is the go-to guy. He does, Rule 42 with the need, how much you need. So it's not like we don't have experts, but the problem with that is you've got to put in the legwork to go and get into the Infrastructure Council. You got to go to the Public Service Commission. You have to do all of these things. And unfortunately, the best way to do that is go in person. You want to get in Senator Manchin or Senator Capito's funding stream, you go to Washington, D.C. Because when you meet them face to face and you explain to them, whatever circumstances you're in, that's how you get them to take a look at your projects.
Sounds like we need to hire Mr. Smith. You guys don't remember that movie, do you?
Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Yep. And so, that's the deal. But, Craig makes a valid point. We should be doing rate increases more frequently than they are, because once you get to the point where you have to have it, then it turns out to be a much bigger rate increase than you want to bring to the public.
Yeah, it's 27%.
If you put in there that every 2 years or every 3 years, we're going to raise rates like a lot of cities do, simply because of the number Tom's talking about, the inflation rate, then you're at least pretty good shape. But if you don't do that, then you play catch up. That's the deal.
And people will pay for quality of life. And that's what that's what I see these, this investment in our infrastructure as. This is an investment into quality of life. People don't want to drive through water. People don't want stuff backing up in their house. People don't want their yards tore up because a line is broken again. Those are frustrations that can taint their positive view of where they live, right? And so I think these things should definitely be priority, so that we can continue to enhance their quality of life.
Well, Mayor, would you suggest that we do consider, as we do in other areas of the city, hiring, I'll call it a consultant, to assist with the pursuit of these grants? I can't imagine the expense of that wouldn't be offset by the gain when you're talking about, thousands of dollars in consulting fees versus millions of dollars in awards. I would think that if there is an opportunity out there for us to recruit some help, to really, that would make a difference, that would actually, change our position, that I think that in this opportunity climate we have right now, we should consider that.
Well, the money's on the table, Jim. It's whoever gets there first,
Right.
gets the pot. And I have to say to Mike Davis, Burgess and Nyepel has been instrumental in every project that we've done, and especially when Craig Richards was with the company. They paved the road for us. There's no question. When we went to Charleston, the Infrastructure Council knew who we were, what we were doing. And I think over the years, we've been consistently one of the lowest water rates in the state of West Virginia. And so we do it right. We just do. But we can't keep up with the cost. That's just it. Mike, would you agree that there's just enormous amounts of money out there right now?
Yeah, and the regional council is one of the best resources around. I know the mayor did ask me one time about that. They do, regional councils are set up for the state, and that's what they get paid to do. Their folks go out to communities, usually the smaller ones, but I'm sure if you ask, get some help from them too.
Yes, I know they will. Okay.
Was that something that, would originate with the utility board in terms of recommendations on how, like you say, that Mike, the regional council, what other opportunities are there? I mean, Greg, do you have ideas, or Kim, in terms of, you just know that there's so much opportunity cost because you can't get to it, right? You just don't have the bandwidth to look everywhere it takes to look in order to unearth these opportunities, unintended. And that just seems to me to be, we are in this time of, significant need, as is in your proposal, and a time of significant opportunity in terms of funds available. And if we wait, we're going to miss it. So what is it? That's what I think is what the focus needs to be, is let's now focus on funding this 5-year project with as much outside money as is available to us, and tap the resources. We need to understand what those resources are.
What you were asking is, do I support you bringing in somebody to help us pursue the grants and the funding? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm asking what.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean,
is to capitalize.
You get kind of tired of seeing other cities around here getting a lot of money that we're not getting. Tony John does a great job. I mean, but you're looking at going out like shaking hands.
Yeah. Tony's, doing CDBG and all the things.
It's a cost sharing kind of thing. I mean, I don't mind utility board paying their fair share for it, but when you talk about grants or grants and free money, it also applies to the general fund. I mean, you're talking about police grants, you're talking about public works grants, parks grants,
Yeah, but we're talking about your projects.
Yeah, but I mean, that individual should be doing all that. That's what I'm saying. So it's like that person, when he goes out shaking hands with Bob back there, whoever, back there getting money, but it's like he should be pursuing grants for this city. Okay.
Well, that's kind of some of the city advocate thing, but
so,
again, I think that, we've been dealing with issues with the police department and so on, but I don't see there being any bigger money need in the city than your project, right? In other words, compared to getting like a resource officer or something like that, that pales in comparison to what you're looking at.
Yeah, but I mean,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, get
it involved in everything.
$4 million for them bridge replacements, it sure did help out.
Right.
I mean, so it happened because, Randy pursued that, talking to the people, but that helps out. And it should be, if we can get even for, Spencer Landing projects or kayak launches or boat ramps or whatever you got coming up, that person should be leading that for the whole city. And I'll definitely take my money. Okay. So
we've seen that.
Yeah. Okay.
So Craig, I guess then what we're saying though, to lean into this, that first step should be to reach out to the regional council and see what might be there resource-wise, and we may need to look towards somebody that we can hire as a grant writer potentially within water sewer grants. First thing, and then second thing is I think we need to go back to the accountant. I know last year we said some projects to him and he worked up some numbers, but now I understand that those numbers are a little bit out of date, and to see what he has to say about a rate increase. I mean, it seems like we're asking two different things, right? I mean, grants will get you so far, and any dollar that we get that's free, that's great, but that's not going to cover everything.
Correct. That's why I say you should raise the rates to cover the projects going. If you get any grants, then that money you allocated for the project will go for the next project down the line, because that project's never end. It just keeps stacking up. Okay, so the grant money you might get, apply it to the current projects, but keep that money going and apply it to the next project down the line. Okay. Yeah, Tom.
It seems to me we need to do two things. One is we need to raise the water rates and do it soon. And secondly, we ought to seriously consider getting somebody that's conversant in the grant business to pursue this stuff. Somebody that has the time and aggressively go after the grant money and raise the water rate.
Yeah, I think what y'all should do is, advise the utility board to go ahead and pursue redoing the rate structure and let the utility board decide and get the handshaker out there and let them just look about what we got. And that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I'm not politically correct, I know that, but I mean, the more people you know, the better chances you got about getting grants.
So how does the exact advisement to the utility board work? Do we need to have a resolution saying we're
No,
requesting
You got two individuals here. It's on the utility board. I mean, just say it'd be nice to do the rate study again. I mean, I'll take that and we'll talk to utility board about doing that.
Awesome.
Okay, if that's what y'all want to do. But, when that comes around, it's nice to say it now, but you're going to have to be there when that rate does come back. Because you probably won't like it, okay? But, hey, I am the only thing you're going to buy off City of Vienna that's going to stick in your mouth, okay? So think about that. You don't get water from somewhere, so you're going to drink it. So it's be better if it's clean and good and on time and always there. So nobody cares about that sewer until it stops flushing, right? You have questions, Randy? Anybody?
I'll reach out to the regional council.
Yeah, they're good people too. So
Well, I mean, I've been on the board for many years, and I'll get one of the guys, one of the people, to come up and explain to us the process, and ask questions about what grants are available right now and what funding sources are there, okay? We'll get them to make a presentation. All right? And we'll see where we go.
Thank you very much. You did a great job.
The other thing that I would like to say is, we need to educate everybody in the city of Vienna about the difference between the general fund and the
Yes.
enterprise fund,
I agree.
because they blend them together and they're not at all. Your opening remarks were you can't take money from the general fund and support the water and sewer fund. It doesn't work that way.
Well,
They,
we did that.
they have to stand alone.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mayor, but, when we looked at the water and sewer, we did a graphic illustration, and it may still be on our website and need to be refreshed, because it really explained the difference between the enterprise fund, and that's because that's when we got that unfunded mandate from the state too, that you had to be at certain levels to have, because the one water system couldn't afford a $20 to $4 part. And so all of a sudden we had this big unfunded mandate that we had to have a certain amount of reserve, right? And that was all part and parcel of that last rate hike. Well, all that was going on at the same time. So there is a pretty good graphic illustration to the educational tool to help people understand, that these two funds have to stay in their own lanes and there's no overlap.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Would there be room in that quarterly blurb we put out every year to explain it? I don't know whether you could do it.
Well, Tom, let's talk about that in a little while. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I have something I'd like to bring up to the group, and we'll talk about that then. As far as the newsletter goes, it can be put in there, absolutely.
I don't know whether there's
I think we have a better way to do it than that. But the newsletter, yes, sir, it can be
just
done.
so we do it.
Yep, okay?
One more thing too, before I head to the room. You guys need to be aware of the lead and copper rule, which is next October's due, and what the EPA could require us to do, and with expense it could be pretty steep for the city, because they're talking about replacing service lines at our cost. We're doing the work. If there's any kind of lead or copper or galvanized lines, it could get very expensive for this city. Okay, now we're going to finalize that next October, but we're doing a lot of studies right now, knocking on doors, asking people finish up questionnaires that, tells us what's in your house, what type of pipe it is. So it's on our webpage. Please have people look at our webpage. There's a lead and copper rule survey in there. They click on it. It's electronic. It goes right to our ESRA system. So please, if you know people who haven't filled the questionnaires, it kind of lets us do our job, then we present everything to the EPA, and then they're going to tell us what we're going to be required to do after that. And it could be pretty harsh. Okay.
Are you leaving?
No, I'm just going in the room right there.
I'd like you to stay for just a minute.
Yeah, I'm just going to put my,
In there.
yeah, oh, that's fine. Yeah.
That's fine. All right.
Okay.
Craig, thank you. Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Craig.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Before we go into our next item on the agenda this evening, I would like to go into executive session to discuss a legal matter. So I'll entertain a motion for an executive session.
Make motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes, aye.
Yes.
Aye. Let the record reflect that we went into executive session at 7:02, and we will be right back.